Hey there, welcome back to Insibook. Do you know that not all voices need to be loud to make an impact? In this Insibook summary of quiet, we explore Susan Cain's powerful message that introversion is not a weakness, but a quiet strength. Through science, stories, and insight, this book reveals how introverts thrive, not in spite of their nature, but because of it. Take a moment to slow down and listen. There's a particular way you might feel, a subtle dissonance with the rhythm of the world around you. It's a world that often seems to pulse with the energy of the gregarious, the outgoing, the ones who effortlessly command attention in a crowd. You might find yourself needing a quiet retreat after an event that others seem to find invigorating, preferring the company of a good book or a deep conversation with a select few over the clamor of a larger gathering. Perhaps there's a persistent, gentle nudge, or sometimes a more forceful shove, from society urging you to be louder, more visible, more extroverted. This feeling, this inclination towards quietude and introspection, isn't a personal defect or a social failing. It's a fundamental aspect of your temperament, a reflection of a deeply ingrained cultural preference, an extrovert ideal that quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, shapes our institutions, workplaces, schools, and social expectations. This ideal champions sociability, assertiveness, and outward enthusiasm as the highest virtues, often overshadowing the profound strengths and unique contributions inherent in introversion. At its core, introversion isn't about being shy, awkward, or antisocial. It's fundamentally about how we process the world, particularly our response to stimulation. Our nervous systems are wired differently. Consider dopamine, a key neurotransmitter associated with reward and motivation. For many introverts, their brain pathways are more sensitive to dopamine. This means they don't need as much external stimulation to feel engaged, excited, or motivated. Where an extrovert might seek out novel experiences, loud environments, or constant social interaction to get their dopamine hit, an introvert often finds their optimal level of engagement in calmer, less stimulating settings. Their internal world is rich and vibrant, and too much external input can feel overwhelming, like tuning a radio dial too far up the frequency. This fundamental difference influences everything from our preferences for social settings and work environments to our approaches to relationships and problem solving. It's not a lesser way of being, it's a different way, one that thrives under different conditions. This distinction becomes particularly significant when we consider the cultural landscape of the last century, especially in Western societies. There was a noticeable shift away from an earlier emphasis on character, valuing virtues like duty, integrity, hard work, and restraint, towards a focus on personality. This new ideal celebrated charisma, optimism, outward confidence, gregariousness, and the ability to project a certain appealing image. Think of the proliferation of self-help books promising to transform you into a social butterfly, the rise of motivational gurus teaching techniques for projecting confidence, and the increasing value placed on networking and self-promotion. The underlying message became clear. Success and likability are largely determined by your personality, your ability to engage with others assertively and visibly. In this cultural climate, introversion, with its inherent preference for reflection, quiet contemplation, focused work, and smaller social circles, began to feel like a disadvantage, a trait to be managed, minimized, or even overcome. Yet, history tells a different story. If we look further back, many of the figures we revere for their intellect, creativity, and profound insights were deeply introverted. Think of the great writers who found solace and inspiration in solitude, the philosophers who wrestled with complex ideas in quiet study, the artists who honed their craft through years of dedicated, often solitary practice. Their contributions weren't lessened by their quiet nature. Often, their deep inner lives, their ability to immerse themselves in thought and observation, were the very wellsprings of their genius. This inherent value of introversion is a vital truth that has been obscured by the modern extrovert ideal. Introverts possess a constellation of strengths, an exceptional capacity for deep concentration, allowing them to dive into complex tasks without distraction, a tendency towards thoughtful analysis and careful consideration before acting or speaking, a heightened sensitivity that often translates into keen observation skills, empathy, and a nuanced understanding of others, and a dedication to pursuing passions with unwavering focus. They are the meticulous planners, the deep thinkers, the insightful observers, the ones who often see the connections others miss. This sensitivity, this preference for depth over breadth in experience, is beautifully captured by the metaphor of orchids and dandelions. Dandelions are often seen as the default, the hardy, resilient plants that can thrive almost anywhere, needing little special attention to grow and spread. Many extroverts resemble these dandelions in their ability to flourish in a wide range of social and environmental conditions. Orchids, conversely, are more delicate. They require specific conditions, just the right amount of light, the precise balance of nutrients, protection from harsh elements to truly blossom. But when those conditions are met, when they are carefully nurtured in their specific environment, orchids can produce breathtakingly intricate and beautiful blooms. Many introverts are like these orchids. They may be more sensitive to their surroundings, more easily overstimulated by noise, chaos, or intense social demands, and perhaps more prone to feeling overwhelmed or depleted in challenging environments. However, when provided with supportive relationships, environments that allow for quiet focus and reflection, and the space to recharge, they demonstrate remarkable resilience, creativity, and potential for profound achievement. Recognizing this difference is crucial, especially in how we approach raising children and fostering environments where everyone can thrive. The nature of creativity and innovation itself often hinges on these introverted strengths. Many groundbreaking discoveries, revolutionary artistic creations, and profound philosophical insights haven't sprung from boisterous group brainstorming, but from the quiet, focused introspection of individuals. Introverts often possess a remarkable ability to enter a state of flow, a concept described as a state of complete absorption in an activity, where one feels energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. In this state, time seems to warp, self-consciousness fades, and the work itself becomes deeply rewarding. This capacity to immerse oneself deeply in a subject, to wrestle with challenging problems without interruption, is fundamental to progress. However, our contemporary environment, characterized by open-plan offices, the constant ping of digital notifications, endless emails, and an expectation of immediate responsiveness, often actively sabotages this state of deep concentration. The relentless barrage of stimuli and the pressure to be constantly available can stifle the very conditions required for the focused, introspective work where much human ingenuity originates. This cultural tension plays out vividly within our educational systems. Classrooms designed primarily around the extrovert ideal often emphasize active participation, spontaneous contributions, group projects, and rapid-fire exchanges. Students are frequently encouraged to raise their hands frequently, speak their minds immediately, learn through lively debate, and collaborate extensively. While these methods certainly have value and foster important social skills, they can inadvertently place introverted students at a disadvantage. These children may require more time to process information internally before articulating it. They might prefer expressing their thoughts through writing rather than speaking aloud in a large group, or they might simply find the constant sensory input and social demands of a busy classroom overwhelming. Their quiet nature, their need for processing time, or their preference for reflection might be misinterpreted by educators as disinterest, lack of understanding, or even defiance. This can lead to diminished self-confidence, a feeling that their way of learning and contributing is somehow inferior, and ultimately, a failure to reach their full academic potential. Imagine a scenario where a student has thoroughly researched a topic, grasped its nuances, and formulated insightful conclusions, but due to shyness or a need for processing time, hesitates to speak up in class. Meanwhile, a more outwardly confident student, perhaps less prepared but quicker to volunteer an answer, captures the teacher's attention and perceived understanding. The quiet student's knowledge remains hidden, the potential contribution lost, simply because the environment didn't provide the right conditions for it to surface. There is a growing recognition of the need for educational approaches that honor diverse temperaments, offering a variety of ways for students to engage and demonstrate their learning, valuing thoughtful written responses as much as spontaneous verbal ones, and deliberately incorporating opportunities for solitary reflection alongside collaborative work. The professional world presents similar, often amplified, challenges. The widespread adoption of open-plan offices, initially promoted as catalysts for collaboration and communication, has often proven detrimental to the productivity and well-being of introverted employees. The constant low-level hum of conversation, the visual distractions, the lack of privacy, and the perpetual interruptions, even brief ones, are directly counterproductive to the deep, focused work that many introverts excel at. Meetings, too, can be a source of anxiety. While extroverts might thrive on the energy of brainstorming aloud, bouncing ideas off each other in real time, introverts often prefer to prepare beforehand, perhaps formulating their thoughts in writing, researching potential solutions, or discussing ideas one-on-one before engaging in a group setting. Yet, the social norm often dictates that the person who speaks most frequently and confidently in a meeting is perceived as the most engaged and valuable participant. This can lead to introverts' contributions being overlooked or undervalued simply because their communication style differs. Even hiring processes can inadvertently favor extroverted candidates, placing a premium on interview performance, self-promotion, and networking prowess, potentially sidelining individuals whose quiet competence, analytical skills, and diligent work ethic might be far more valuable to the organization in the long run. The popular notion of personality fit often defaults to equating it with gregariousness, failing to recognize that diverse teams, incorporating the quiet, analytical minds of introverts, are often more innovative, thorough, and successful. Forward-thinking organizations are beginning to understand the critical importance of accommodating the need for focus and solitude. This might involve implementing policies that support flexible work arrangements, creating designated quiet zones within offices, respecting communication preferences, and actively seeking out and valuing contributions from employees, regardless of their level of outward assertiveness. Our personal relationships, too, are inevitably shaped by these differing temperaments. Introverts typically forge deep, meaningful bonds with a relatively small circle of friends and loved ones. They prioritize quality over quantity in their social connections, valuing loyalty, intimacy, and authenticity. These deep connections are often characterized by profound mutual understanding and unwavering support. However, navigating the broader social landscape can be an energy-intensive undertaking. Large social gatherings, prolonged periods of interaction, or the necessity of engaging in superficial small talk can be profoundly draining, requiring significant recovery time afterward. The societal expectation to be constantly available for social engagement or to maintain a wide network of acquaintances can feel exhausting and inauthentic. In romantic relationships, particularly those between introverts and extroverts, the dynamic can be incredibly rewarding, but requires conscious effort and mutual understanding. An extrovert might genuinely need frequent social interaction and external stimulation to feel energized and fulfilled, while an introvert might require substantial periods of solitude and calm to recharge. Success in these relationships hinges on open communication about these differing needs, respecting each other's boundaries, and finding a sustainable balance that honors both individuals' temperaments. It's about acknowledging that different ways of connecting, different expressions of affection, are equally valid and contribute richness to the relationship. An introvert might demonstrate their love through quiet acts of service, deep listening, or thoughtful gestures, while an extrovert might express it through shared adventures and enthusiastic engagement. Both are genuine manifestations of care and connection. So, how can we navigate this world more effectively, more authentically? How can introverts embrace their innate nature without succumbing to the pressure to constantly perform extroversion? The journey begins with cultivating deep self-awareness and embracing self-acceptance. Understanding your own unique energy patterns, your triggers for depletion, and your sources of renewal is the foundational step. Recognize that your need for solitude isn't a sign of weakness or social inadequacy. It's a vital component of your physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and often a prerequisite for your most productive and creative work. Learn to manage your energy proactively. This means consciously scheduling periods of downtime into your day and week, creating personal sanctuaries, physical spaces, or mental retreats where you can recharge, and developing the confidence to decline social invitations or commitments that you know will overextend you. Finding work environments and roles that align with your temperament is also crucial. This might involve seeking positions that allow for independent work, leveraging your capacity for deep focus, or joining organizations that demonstrably value quiet concentration and respect diverse working styles. For parents raising introverted children, the approach must be one of nurturing and understanding, not transformation. The goal is not to mold them into extroverts, but to help them flourish as the introverts they are. Providing a calm, predictable home environment is essential. Allow ample time for unstructured play, solitary exploration, and quiet activities. Resist the powerful temptation to constantly push them into social situations before they feel ready or to interpret their quietness as a sign of unhappiness. Instead, celebrate their unique strengths, their thoughtfulness, their observational skills, their capacity for deep interests. Help them develop the social skills they need to navigate the world comfortably, but do so on their terms. This might involve practicing social scenarios through role-playing, starting with smaller, less intimidating social interactions, or encouraging them to connect with others based on shared interests rather than forced mingling. Teach them, explicitly and implicitly, that their quiet nature is a gift, a source of unique perspective and strength. Within educational settings, educators play a pivotal role in creating more inclusive and supportive learning environments. This involves moving beyond a one-size-fits-all approach that favors extroverted participation styles. Offering a variety of ways for students to engage with the material and demonstrate their understanding is key. This includes providing sufficient wait time after asking questions to allow students adequate processing time, valuing thoughtful written contributions as much as verbal ones, structuring group work carefully to ensure all voices can be heard, and creating quiet, calm spaces within the classroom or school where students who need respite from stimulation can retreat. Recognizing that not all learning and engagement happens loudly or immediately is fundamental to fostering an environment where every child can thrive. Ultimately, the aspiration isn't to dismantle the extrovert ideal entirely, but rather to strive for a more balanced and inclusive cultural landscape. This involves recognizing, valuing, and actively cultivating the immense strengths that introverts bring to every facet of life. It means understanding that true leadership, groundbreaking creativity, meaningful connection, and profound wisdom can manifest in myriad ways, including the quiet, contemplative ones. It requires us to see sensitivity not as a liability, but as a powerful asset, enabling deeper insight, greater empathy, and more authentic connection. Our world needs the deep thinkers, the careful planners, the meticulous analyzers, and the sensitive observers just as much as it needs the charismatic leaders and the dynamic social connectors. By embracing the power of quiet, by intentionally creating spaces, systems, and social norms that allow introverts to thrive, we don't just benefit individuals, we enrich our collective human experience. We unlock a vast reservoir of talent, perspective, and potential that has too long been underestimated or misunderstood. This is a call to appreciate the full, beautiful spectrum of human temperament, fostering a greater equilibrium between outward action and inner reflection, between the allure of the spotlight and the restorative power of the sanctuary. It's about building a world where everyone, irrespective of their innate temperament, can find their authentic voice, harness their unique strengths, and make their most meaningful contribution.